È bello avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Con EasyBank, la banca digitale di Intesa San Paolo.
Qui è ora. Qui è dove conoscere significa confrontarsi con le sfide della contemporaneità, ascoltare le nuove generazioni da accogliere nel tempo presente. Ora, Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore. Visita il sito unicat.it.
Vi prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
Comunicare la fede agli altri, ma veramente insieme a loro riscoprire che cos'è la fede, che cos'è la fede per me. Portare Cristo agli altri, comunicarlo agli altri è l'unico modo che abbiamo per conoscerlo veramente.
L'iter communionis aiuta a comunicare all'esterno la ricchezza di vita, di giudizi, di tentativi, di opere che nascono dalle persone e dalle comunità. L'iter communionis è proprio la vita del movimento. Scrivete all'iter communionis le vostre esperienze, ci fate bene.
Si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia? E voi chi dite che io sia?
Avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Con EasyBank, la banca digitale di Intesa San Paolo.
Qui è ora. Qui è dove conoscere significa confrontarsi con le sfide della contemporaneità, ascoltare le nuove generazioni da accogliere nel tempo presente. Ora, Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore. Visita il sito unicat.it.
Vi prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
di comunicare la fede agli altri, ma veramente insieme a loro riscoprire che cos'è la fede, che cos'è la fede per me. Portare Cristo agli altri, comunicarlo agli altri è l'unico modo che abbiamo per conoscerlo veramente.
L'Iter Communionis aiuta a comunicare all'esterno la ricchezza di vita, di giudizi, di tentativi, di opere che nascono dalle persone e dalle comunità. L'Iter Communionis è proprio la vita del movimento. Scrivete all'Iter Communionis le vostre esperienze, ci fate bene.
Si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia? E voi chi dite che io sia?
La civiltà dell'amore, fratelli e sorelle, costruite senza stancarvi mai questa civiltà. Lavorate per questo, pregate per questo, soffrite per questo.
Good evening and welcome to this session on reconciliation. I would like to express my warmest welcome to the President of the Italian Bishops' Commission, Cardinal Matteo Zuppi. We were supposed also to have with us the Secretary General of the Arab Muslim League, Mohammed Al-Issa, but he has to be in Africa because he was there for some meetings, reconciliation meetings between Muslims and Christians, but he underwent unexpected problems and had to stop there. And it was also foreseen that he could connect from Malawi, from the capital. However, he was about to reach the capital from an inland area, and therefore, but he had to stay there because his plane broke down. So he sent a message. We will watch the message, and to send the message from Malawi till here, it took us 7 hours. So we would like to thank Issa for his tireless work on reconciliation, for reconciliation. You probably remember that in 2022, our third guest made a contribution on the religious sense by Don Luigi Giussani. That is something that I consider a milestone, not only for the history of the meeting, of the Rimini meeting, but also in the history of interreligious dialogue. He made an outstanding speech. The very same Cardinal Zuppi, that same year, made a speech on Don Giussani's educational passion that we remember very well. And he showed how important a deep education is, an education of the heart that is necessary to become the protagonists in educating for peace. As we're going to listen to, it is not only, reconciliation cannot be imposed top-down, but that has to take place through proper education. And then we all know what the commitment of Matteo Zuppi for peace is, and that is why we are very much interested about what he's going to tell us this evening. So if we're not after the essence, what are we after? That is a very topical, the title of the meeting is very topical and very much in line with the theme we're going to discuss during this talk. We need human essence to reach peace, to overcome hatred. And this is something that we've also heard from the words and from the experiences shared with us by Cardinal Pierbattista Pizzaballa at the beginning of the meeting. And I'd like to seize this occasion to talk about another thing. I've mentioned Cardinal Pizzaballa. What you will donate to Dona Ora to support the Rimini meeting, that's important. It's important that you do that because you're going to support talks like this one, will be partly devoted to Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa so that he can support that anyone who's anyone in need in the Holy Land. I would also like to thank Professor Wael Farouq from Catholic University for the preparation of this meeting. He will chair the meeting. Thank you very much also for the passion that you have always shown in supporting the Rimini meeting in our dialogue with some protagonists of the Muslim world. So thanks to all of you for being here, and thanks to Wael Farouq, thanks to His Eminence Cardinal Matteo Maria Zuppi, and I'm really looking forward to listening to the talk. So good evening everyone, and welcome to a meeting this evening which in my view will be particularly important, really extraordinary. We're going to listen to the words of two major personalities, people who help build bridges through their actions and through their words. Both of them are also writers. They wrote novels, they wrote books, and articles on reconciliation and conciliation. Before we show the video of His Excellence Al-Issa, I would like to say that his commitment in dialogue with non-Islamic world is a commitment also within the very same Islamic world. And there are two things I'd like to point out. First of all, the Charter of La Mecca of 2019, he managed to succeed in something that was unimaginable. He managed to reach a consensus between Muslim scholars on the Quran. So representatives, scholars from 139 countries gathered in La Mecca in the sacred month of the Ramadan to learn about the most important human rights, including the fraternal relationship with other non-Islamic religions and peoples. The second event took place last March. He invited all the representatives of various Islamic doctrines, and on that occasion too, they managed to publish a document acknowledging all the doctrines of Islam, going well beyond cohabitation between various doctrines. So he really does a lot. He arrived at the Rimini meeting after an accident, and he arrived on a wheelchair, and I didn't want to miss the chance. He didn't want to miss the chance to be here. Unfortunately, today he's not with us because it's really impossible for him to be there. So let's now listen from him. So I am very happy that I am here this evening with you at this extraordinary meeting in Rimini. I would like to thank the organizers of this meeting for their kind invitation. In particular, I'm going to share the stage with personalities of the religious world who have done a lot for peace and reconciliation. So Cardinal Matteo Maria Zuppi. I would also like to thank Professor Wael Farouq for chairing this meeting, and I would like to apologize for not being present. However, these days we are here in several African countries to carry out tasks of reconciliation. I would have liked to be present in person or to be connected live, but there's a weak internet connection, so I had to record my speech. So may peace be on you. When we talk about reconciliation, we talk about one of the most important components of stability in the human world, both in social terms and at the level of the family, as well as at a national level, and this worldwide. We really need reconciliation at all levels. Reconciliation is a very high moral value. In our world, we really need reconciliation. And we need to understand, first and foremost, what reconciliation means. And we need to understand what our need for reconciliation is about. And we need to learn to practice reconciliation with a human spirit, so that we can carry on in the task of reconciliation, helping us, elevating our spirit in the name of tolerance and generosity. When we say that reconciliation is necessary, then we wonder, why is it so? Why is it necessary? And the answer is that our life is full of differences. It's full of clashes. And there is a general sense of absence affecting all of us. And that is because every party has different beliefs and convictions. And even if conflicts apparently come to an end through legal or judicial solutions, there are conflicts, clashes within the soul, and they stay in the hearts of the people forever. So there's nothing worse than these clashes, than these conflicts that remain in the heart, even beyond legal and tangible solutions. So this conflict, this ideological conflict and cultural conflict is there to stay if it is not healed. To overcome these conflicts, we really need to listen to our conscience. We need to understand our world and to understand what the spiritual needs are to come to elevated high human values like fraternity, for example, so that everybody can come back to our origin, because we are a united human family. And if we're not united, then we are bound to get lost. And if we continue burning each other, at the end, everybody will be burned. But we live in one planet. We have one planet that we inhabit. So we have to remember that we are one single species and we need each other. So God created us different from other creatures. He gave us reason. He gave us feelings. He gave us ideas. And we need to, in a way, appeal to this natural disposition to heal all the aspects of our mankind, so our hearts and our brains. We wonder whether religious institutions actually carry out this role of reconciliation. They are spiritual institutions. They have to talk to the heart, but also to the spirit, and they have to overcome all limitations. They are the institutions that have the biggest influence on everybody, also on believers of different faiths, in different faiths, and they also influence the work of those who do not believe, and especially religious leaders can influence everybody. So reconciliation understands only two languages, the language of dialogue and the language of reason. And this is how it should be. The language of dialogue in reconciliation and the language of reason have to be the only two understandable languages. Religious institutions have pursue the same goals. And when religious visions are distorted, when we face extremistic stances, that is something that should not be taken into account in religious institutions. They have nothing to do with religious institutions. And so I wonder, are religious institutions capable of defending moral values? Do they manage to fulfill these values? The real value consists in implementing moral values, not through propaganda, but through truth. And in fact, there are institutions which do nothing. They stay silent. They do not say anything. And therefore, they do not manage to stop conflicts. And these are the institutions which basically become extremistic. We've recently seen that this has happened in history. So religion has to invite everybody to commit themselves in favor of peace. Otherwise, it runs the risk of becoming negative and extremistic. So we also wonder what the values are that are instilled in the souls of believers so that reconciliation is truly possible and conflicts are overcome. I believe that the most important value is faith in our God, in the Creator, the real knowledge of His name, the wise, the merciful. And we also have to know that God is also termed the generous. So we have to understand all of these names, all of these characteristics of the Creator. Only this way will our faith be truly enacted. And only in this way can we do good. Today we address reconciliation, which means passion, forgiveness, and at the same time also respect and generosity. And then in the end, it also means peace and harmony. And it also means elevating our spirit above materialism, above personal profit. It means going and working towards the common good. That's the path, the path towards real happiness. Personal profit gives us only provisional, transitory benefits, because the human soul constantly wants something more. That's why it is constantly miserable. However, if we think for the common good, we become better people, better individuals. So, for example, those who are in favor of wars, they only think of their personal interest. And so they impose wars, and they themselves lose. This has been shown throughout history. Now, let's talk about the principles that make us listen to the language of mankind and keep us away from religious extremism, cultural extremism, and selfishness. The most important precept is the development of a real human feeling. And that happens only through faith in our common origin, in our unity as a family that is made of a mother and a father. We are a big family. We are all united in a family. And that's a small family of a husband and a wife is an example of the big family that we all together are. When we become a single family, we can then see that even if we are different one from the other, nothing can really tear us apart. Religion and faith lead man to believe without feeling forced that he or she has to believe. Within Islam, we can build a family. Even with people believing in different religions, we can marry people believing in different religions. We can practice conciliation in Islam too. So when we think of today's conflicts, we see that oftentimes they are caused by a lack of education for the good. So we need to educate people. Since they are children, they have to be educated to mutual knowledge and conciliation. If children are educated to nurture their personal interest, that will favor selfishness, and that will in turn lead to conflicts, and mankind will be torn, and everybody will be turned into monsters, into wild beings, like the wild animals in a family where only the strongest survives, because there's no mercy and no mankind in the world of animals. So if we are not educated for conciliation, we will be like animals. Today's conflicts are apparently endless. However, since the world organizations have joined, like the United Nations, to overcome conflicts, they have shown that they have found a tool to overcome conflicts. God's mercy is always with us, but we have to remember that God always puts us to the test to tell the good from the evil, and life in the world is not like in the life after death. It's full of tests, and we have to undergo these tests to become better individuals and to win over the evil, so that in the afterlife we can really fulfill the promise of an eternal life and peace. Nobody can fight against the faith of the only Creator. Nobody can cancel, can erase the willingness to have good that helps us reach God. And we have to give an opportunity to everybody to be educated for this. And we also have to remember that the evil never lasts. It never lasts. I'm not going to speak any further, but I would like to thank once again the organizers and those in charge of the Rimini meeting. I'd like to greet once again Cardinal Zuppi, and I really hope that our world remains a reconciled and world. So peace be upon you.
Eminence.
So, His Eminence, your commitment for reconciliation is not a recent commitment. It is not linked to certain conflicts. It dates back to several years ago. Before starting with the questions, I would like to ask you for a reflection. How do you perceive the message we've just listened to by His Excellency Al-Issa? Well, first of all, thank you very much. Thank you for this beautiful topic of discussion. I was congratulating Bernhard, because you always manage to find wonderful topics, wonderful themes for the meeting. I tried to have him tell me the title of next year's meeting, but he resisted. So, being after the essence, otherwise we are after something which is not important, something which doesn't matter, or we mistake something that is not important for what is essential for essence. The straws. If you're after the straw, you no longer see the beauty, and you no longer see the big faults. As for the reconciliation, it is essential. If there is not reconciliation, what is left is evil. There are no ways in between. It is not true that you can hold everybody. Evil never stops. Evil never stands still. So if there is no reconciliation, hatred is never inert. Hatred is something you do not dispose of very easily. You need commitment. If you leave hatred somewhere, hatred will pollute, will contaminate something else, other places. So the beauty of looking together in the same direction, sharing the same concerns in a world where there is not so much reconciliation. We know that there are conflicts that have been lasting for years. There is too little reconciliation in this world, precisely because we do not look we are not after the essence as much as we should be. And then he insisted on another topic, that of family. And he said, we will all burn. This is an awareness which, unfortunately, we tend to forget too often. Sometimes, faced with pandemics, faced with evidence, faced with a flame, one probably understands that we will all burn. Otherwise, you tend to think that it's always someone else's problem. You cannot do without reconciliation. We cannot think that if we achieve reconciliation, all the best, all the better. Otherwise, nothing changes. It means that if we do not find reconciliation, we will leave toxic waste to the future generations, more waste than we found and that we inherited. So I think that the words that we've listened to on the part of the Secretary General, it was a beautiful speech, and his words can be shared by us all. In the perspective Pope Francis gave us with the Fratre Omnes, almost 40 years have passed since the meeting of Assisi, which was the beginning of a dialogue which led to the Fratres Omnes, and I feel we are fully within this perspective. That's another thing that impressed me. The strongest will survive. He's right. He's right when he states that the strongest will survive. It's like in the animal world. It's terrible because we are all weak. And the logics of the evil is very, very impressive. It seemed to me that his speech was very clear. If there is no reconciliation, only the strongest will survive. I've always known that in the depth of every human heart there are mercy and generosity. No one is born hating another person because of the color of the skin, or because of his origin, or because of the religion. People must learn to hate. But if they can learn how to hate, they can also learn how to love, because love comes more natural for the human heart than hatred. This is a quotation from Nelson Mandela and from his biography, A Long Walk Towards Freedom. In your writings, you always find something mentioning and related to reconciliation. In your book, you wrote, hate, odio al prossimo tuo come te stesso, and I quote, you wrote, those who hate believe they are smart, but only love is smart. So this meeting focuses most of all on education. How can we educate others to love and to this intelligence that you mentioned? We can also say that there is also education to hatred. It is very present. It stems from prejudice. For instance, we have two children playing, but if they do not have another education, they immediately find a reason to be together, to play together. There is also an education to hatred, a very strong education to hatred, very strong. I will give you an example that impressed me. In one of the aspects in which there was no reconciliation after the war, as many people will remember for what was told, there were many clashes. The war did not end on the 25th of April for Italy. There were many conflicts in Italy. There was no reconciliation. There has never been any reconciliation for this. The only case was in Reggio Emilia, as far as I know, for the seminar student Rivi. Someone of the movement was already involved, Monsignor Camisasca for sure. There was a meeting in which the relatives of this seminar student who was killed after the war, because of disputes with other people, it was a vengeance, it was a revenge due to bias. There was no reconciliation in that case. And this is always dangerous. And when I go and visit some villages, there are some families who do not speak with other families because of very past events. If there is no reconciliation, you have hatred. Or there is something which is a sort of suspended. However, evil works. Evil keeps working. It is very easy for some past hatred to start again. There are some stories of hatred which may be revived. You can never say that it is impossible for a past negative event or past hatred to be revived again. Reconciliation is the only way to dispose of toxic waste, which is always produced by the evil. And paradoxically, it seems to me that we've accumulated lots of reasons for rancor, prejudice, and we nurture them. We continue to nurture them. If our Lord said that if you say fool to your brother, you are a homicide, you are a murderer, it has a meaning. It means that if you sow evil, if you sow negative things, you have sown something that will bear fruits. And we're talking about hatred. We can say that in many cases, the education to hatred, education to become the strongest is easier to be learned. It's easier for a person to understand and to remember something negative. Reconciliation is not an extra. We have a duty in this respect, because otherwise, if we fail to reconcile, we will disseminate toxic waste. So this is maintenance. So the practice of reconciliation is creating other ways of other methods for relationships, maybe opposite to the past ones, opposite to those who created conflicts between people. This becomes dangerous for those who will come after us. It is very interesting. It's interesting listening to what you said on revenge. Reconciliation doesn't mean abandoning justice. It is an extra force, an extra power of justice. How can you explain it? Sometimes one thinks that these topics are typical topics of the Catholic world. The Catholics like to talk about these topics. There is an interference. Whereas I think exactly the opposite. Reconciliation is something suitable for serious people, not for animals. It does not belong to the logics of the strongest. This is why I think, and I would like to remind you that in 2002, there was a beautiful message for the Day of Peace, and the title was perfect. There is no peace without justice. There is no justice without forgiveness. That was the title of the Peace Day. The title in itself explains a lot. There is no peace without justice, because it means that peace lasts just a little if you don't have justice. Justice and peace will kiss each other. It's like having two sisters, Siamese sisters. If peace dies, justice also dies. But also, there is no justice without forgiveness. And we want justice. Of course we do want justice. One may think that, well, just because you forgive, you can ask for justice even more, because you're free from revenge. You're free from the feeling of revenge, from a poison. Revenge is a poison which causes the willingness to have justice as a form of vengeance, as a form of revenge. If you're free from this feeling, you ask for justice because you want something to never happen again. You don't want other people to pay for what they've done. It's a different way of thinking. Justice as a revenge, in many cases, produces more hatred and more resentment. I think that someone listened to the beautiful recordings of the funeral of Vittorio Bachelet. He was the president of the Azione Cattolica when his son Giovanni was killed, held by Vittorio's brother, a Jesuit father. He read this beautiful prayer, a moving prayer, which also touched the heart of many terrorists. He said, "I forgive you. I forgive those who have killed my father, but I want justice." And I think that this is precisely what we should look after. If we are strong enough in forgiveness, we are freer to ask for justice, but we have no justice if there is no forgiveness. So this freedom, which is a very important step towards justice, reminds me of the Arabic word for reconciliation, is tasalah, which stems from a root. All the same words had the same root, which means repair. So repairing is the opposite of corruption. So reconciliation means that you repair yourself and also the others. So how do you consider the Italian word reconciliation? What does it represent? I would follow up on your mention of the word repair. Repairing is something we no longer do. We throw away things, we throw away objects, or we think that an object is ruined forever. We think about a sort of catharsis. Repairing something seems to be a sort of byproduct. We have ideas of perfection which are pornographic, in my opinion, even in technical aspects. But I'm thinking about many models. Repairing, it's like when you have to fix something. If you fix something, something which is damaged, the art of life is repairing. Repairing is a big art of life. The ability, life is repair. Otherwise, you throw life away. Otherwise, you are looking for something you will never find. There's a trivial expression, which is true. The kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken vases with gold, and they become even more precious than they were before. But it's a very beautiful concept, the idea that a repaired object is not a byproduct. It is the beauty of life. We repair too little. We throw away things. We throw away relationships. The ability to repair, to fix, calls for patience, forgiveness. It requires the fact that you need to get on well with other people, or you take away the friendship in the digital world. You delete people. That's not the case. That's not a good thing. So I think that repair and reconciliation are very, very close as concepts. It's God's art. God keeps repairing us all. We are all disconnected. We are all ruined. We are all in trouble. We're lucky that we can rely on God's mercy, God's art to make us think that we are beautiful, even though, according to a certain logic, we're lost. The Pharisees only judged people. They did not repair. Jesus repaired a sinner. Jesus repairs us all. And this adds something to us. It does not take away anything from us. It gives us something extra, something more. This is what reconciliation is.
Per questo lei vede la riconciliazione.
So in your opinion, so this is why you see reconciliation as heaven. You wrote, I imagine the heavens as a full reconciliation with God, with other people, and with ourselves. Is it a utopia? Is reconciliation a utopia? I would say it's not a utopia. We should not wait until we're dead. We should start earlier. We should start in this life to reconcile. So reconciliation with God, reconciliation with the others and with ourselves. These are all very much united. The one gives rise to the other. You can change the order. You can either reconcile with God, then with the others, or vice versa. Dostoevsky, in his book Crime and Punishment, states, you also consider and you also accept those swines. And the other character said, of course I do. They know they did not deserve it. And he writes, we will cry and we will understand everything. So I would say that reconciliation anticipates. When I think about reconciliation, I have an image in my mind. The peace in Mozambique. 4th of October, the peace in Mozambique was signed. It should have been signed on the 1st of October, but I think that St. Francis had a role in this. It was signed on the 4th of October. We were very happy with that, because the 4th of October is dedicated to St. Francis in Italy. And the day after, we made a prayer. And my image of reconciliation, my picture of reconciliation, well, in that prayer, there were the two heads of the delegations, and they embraced. Because I had managed to be in peace once again. And then there was a bishop of Mozambique who was a mediator. At the end, we chanted, and he started to dance. The bishop started to dance alone, with his eyes closed, and he would never stop. He wouldn't stop, and that was a joy of reconciliation. So this is my opinion. But to me, it was a physical representation of reconciliation he found everything in that. Of course, reconciliation is possible. It is not easy. Nobody thinks that reconciliation is easy, but hatred is also complicated. If you live according to hatred, well, you lead a very, very poor life. It's hard to hate everybody. In my parish, there were a husband and a wife. They had a quarrel. They had a fight. The husband didn't know where to go, and so he rented a flat above, on the floor above that of the wife. It was a very, very bad life. The wife was constantly looking for him. She would wait for him to come home, and he didn't know how to go on. So hatred is really living on the basis of hatred is very, very difficult. It's also a question of mental health. Hatred also has a cost. But unfortunately, evil cheats us and intoxicates us without us even being aware of that. It is the biggest threat to reconciliation, I would say, is indifference. Because, as the Pope described it very well in one of his speeches, indifference towards the reality, towards the other people, is a big danger that we have. That's for sure. Because indifference makes us think that we've solved something. Indifference is passive, whereas reconciliation is active. Indifference is like saying, I'm not angry with him, but I no longer want to speak to him. I don't want to speak to him. That's not enough, and that doesn't work. Otherwise, we always start from the beginning, as in the game of the goose. Hatred is never inert. Indifference makes you think that hatred is inert. It's not the case. This is why we always need reconciliation. Whereas indifference, sometimes we know that it can lead to new contrasts and new prejudices. I am a witness of the fact that after years of suspension of the dialogue between the Vatican and Yazra, when Pope Francis came, and when he went to Egypt for an official visit, before the Pope came, I remember that the Cairo streets were full of symbols. The Pope in his white garments, the peace, the dove of peace, with the pyramids. But when the Pope met the great Imam, they embraced themselves. It was a brotherly embrace, a profound embrace. Well, at that moment, the narration, the storytelling totally changed. In the collective memory, we thought back to centuries and centuries ago, the embrace between the Sultan and St. Francis. And so reconciliation awakens a memory. In faith, I would say. Because at times we think, since you mentioned St. Francis of Assisi, St. Francis presented himself and he challenged other people on faith. In the speech by the secretary, it is possible to find a profound faith. So I believe that recovering, finding our faith in God and being able to talk with God, each one with his own or her own faith. Syncretism is not to be mentioned. We have syncretism because there is no dialogue. The syncretism of internet, syncretism of the do-it-yourself, which is more pervasive. Whereas in the dialogue, you need to go in depth in your own faith. Maybe this is something in which we should grow more. And reconciliation is learning that faith unites and it does never divide. We should live with other people, not against others. Faith is not a reason to go against other people. It is a reason for knowing other people better and to reconcile with your own brother. Despite the faith, despite the religion, this person is always your brother or sister. And we should remain close to reality. Are there examples that give us hope? And as for the word hope, I am a philologist. In Arabic, we use two words to say hope. One is amal, the same concept of hope. We have another word, raja, which is the a confident expectation of something good. Where can you find this confident expectation of something good? Can we really expect something good in a world that is so full of conflicts? In every community you find a conflict. When can you find raja?
That can be found in being people of faith. It's not that you first have to possess and only after that you believe. It doesn't work like that. That wouldn't be what we mean by faith. If I understand the Arabic word, the Arabic term, that would be providence. That would equal providence, something that we've nearly forgotten. Unfortunately, we've given providence a different meaning. We've become more arrogant. We tend to believe that it's us who decide, and so we believe very little in providence. Our grandparents believed more in providence, and they trusted providence more, and they also knew how to detect it. And this is unlike us, actually. We don't trust providence. It is there, and we do not know how to recognize it. And as a matter of fact, we have very little hope. We are a generation that has burned lots of hope. Pope Francis always recommended that young people should keep their hope and that hope should not be stolen from them. But actually, we are to blame because we turned hope into utopia. We actually have put in place lots of disillusionment, lots of cynicism. But fact is that there is hope and providence, and basically that means believing in in something that you still don't have, but you know you will have it. We need to believe the light when you are in the dark. We need to believe that plant, a very small plant, will become a tree. If we don't do that, if you think that you first want to look at the tree and then only then will you believe, well, life is bound to end. I think that the Jubilee next year focused on this wonderful topic of hope is fantastic. I think that without hope you don't have any babies. Everything gets consumed if you don't have hope. And there is lots of disillusionment around. There's a major sense of disillusionment, which is basically very bad, because if you are not in search of the essence, you are focused only on what comes in the present, on what happens in the present. So we don't like to be too far-sighted. The forward future is a tense that we don't like. That's the difference. Nobody likes that tense because we want to be in the present, but we have to be less poor of hope. So he said, this is the last question. This is going to be my last question. The word providence that you've just used was also pronounced yesterday by His Excellency Al-Barmia, the director of the Orthodox Cultural Center in Cairo. He came here to Rimini for the exhibition on Egypt. So he arrived here and saw Catholic volunteers presenting the heritage of the Orthodox Coptic Church with great passion, enthusiasm, with an open heart. And actually he stopped and said, well, this is providence. This means that there is a possible unity between the two peoples, and said, well, actually here the meeting, the Rimini meeting, basically disseminates hope. It disseminates providence precisely because of this education. So my question is, where do we find, based on your experience, you often come to the meeting, you have a relationship with us, so where is it that we find providence in their education? In my view, it's the meeting itself, which is actually a whole mine of providence. Of course, I mean, you could dig forever and you would find plenty of providence. While going out, actually, I greeted the Jewish and the Palestinian representatives. They console each other. They love each other. They console each other not only through reconciliation, by nurturing reconciliation and not hatred and pain. But actually, we have to abandon this idea of perfection, which is pornographic. Apologies if I use this term twice, if I've used it twice. But fact is that we need to be able to recognize providence. We will understand later on what it means, but we can see it entirely in the smallest details. It's already there. And then, if we think that we have, that we're not going to have any problems, well, no. It doesn't work like that. Its fact is that you have lots of presents, lots of gifts, and you do not understand them. You have lots of beauty, and you do not know how to enjoy that beauty. So there are lots of different signs of hope, of providence, of meeting. And then, of course, we will also continue facing the evil. And then there will always be somebody telling us, well, you haven't solved anything. Of course, we will have to continue combating this. I mean, the idea of a situation in which everything is solved is not real. Reconciliation doesn't mean that it's done once and it's done, once and forever. Reconciliation constantly needs attention. And it also means that also in the smallest sign of reconciliation, which should see the reconciliation. I think that lots of signs of this presence, of this providence, I mean, you have them in your story and also in this meeting. There's plenty of them. There's abundance of these examples of providence. We would like to thank His Eminence for this very interesting and pleasant evening together, for this openness, which is an openness of our heart as well as the openness of our sight, because it helps us seeing the beauty and hugging it and embracing beauty. I would like also to thank His Excellency Mohammed Al-Issa and His Excellency Al-Bahar, who is present today with us. And that is because this welcoming, the welcoming of the good, which can be found in the experience of the other, is the first step towards a real conciliation and a real reconciliation. I would also like to talk about the Dona Ora to support the meeting. But actually, how can I ask you to donate if you yourself are the biggest gift of this meeting? Every gaze to what's beauty, directed to beauty, every fraternal hug is a great gift of the Rimini meeting. But of course, even 100 euros is not bad. So thank you for being here this evening, and see you next time. Thank you.
Civiltà dell'amore. Fratelli e sorelle, costruite senza stancarvi mai questa civiltà. Lavorate per questo, pregate per questo, soffrite per questo.
Avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Con EasyBank, la banca digitale di Intesa San Paolo.
Qui è ora. Qui è dove conoscere significa confrontarsi con le sfide della contemporaneità, ascoltare le nuove generazioni da accogliere nel tempo presente. Ora, Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore. Visita il sito unicat.it.
Vi prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
Di comunicare la fede agli altri, ma veramente insieme a loro riscoprire che cos'è la fede, che cos'è la fede per me. Portare Cristo agli altri, comunicarlo agli altri è l'unico modo che abbiamo per conoscerlo veramente.
L'iter communionis aiuta a comunicare all'esterno la ricchezza di vita, di giudizi, di tentativi, di opere che nascono dalle persone e dalle comunità. L'iter communionis è proprio la vita del movimento. Scrivete all'iter communionis le vostre esperienze, ci fate bene.
voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia? E voi chi dite che io sia?
È bello avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Con EasyBank, la banca digitale di Intesa San Paolo.
Qui è ora. Qui è dove conoscere significa confrontarsi con le sfide della contemporaneità, ascoltare le nuove generazioni da accogliere nel tempo presente. Ora, Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore. Visita il sito unicat.it.
Vi prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
Di comunicare la fede agli altri, ma veramente insieme a loro riscoprire che cos'è la fede, che cos'è la fede per me. Portare Cristo agli altri, comunicarlo agli altri è l'unico modo che abbiamo per conoscerlo veramente.
L'iter communionis aiuta a comunicare all'esterno la ricchezza di vita, di giudizi, di tentativi, di opere che nascono dalle persone e dalle comunità. L'iter communionis è proprio la vita del movimento. Scrivete all'iter communionis le vostre esperienze, ci fate bene.
Si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia?